Okay, welcome everybody. A very warm and hearty welcome to all in attendance. I am Rakesh Babu, serving as the COO and Executive, which has made possible through a dynamic partnership between Innomantra and Amplify. This forum has been thoughtfully crafted with the intention of uniting brilliant minds from various sectors, including industry, academia, and government agencies from around the world. Our mission is to augment innovation and facilitate the transformation of organizations, fostering growth and ensuring sustainability. The forum has and will persist in the pursuit of a shared comprehension of optimal methods in innovation management, harmonizing with the ISO 56000 innovation management system. Attendees will be getting the chance to engage with pioneering innovators and cultivate practical insights to steer the innovation journey. We are proud to announce that the Indian Society for Quality is our esteemed community partners for this series. The blueprint for our knowledge sharing sessions is founded upon the 8 innovation management principles laid out in the newly enacted global standards known as ISO 56000. Over the course of 15 years, leading innovation management specialists hailing from 50 nations have meticulously documented the fundamental principles governing successful innovation endeavors. The outcome of this extensive effort is a holistic framework for systematic innovation management, seamlessly harmonizing with ISO's established management system structures and versatile enough to cater to the unique innovation demands and prerequisites of any organization. We have prepared a carefully curated agenda featuring 2 distinguished speakers, and following their presentations, we will have a question and answer session. If you have any questions to the distinguished speakers, kindly share them in the chat box and we will take them after the presentations. Before we get to hear the eminent speakers of the day, please allow me to introduce the CXO Forum hosts, Innomantra and Amplify. Innomantra is India's leading digital innovation and intellectual property consulting and services firm. We help organizations to design and achieve their innovation and intellectual property goals by 3x. Our clients range from small entrepreneurial enterprises to Fortune 500 global organizations and have over 100 plus clients. Innomantra's mission statement is to serve our clients to foster and transform their imagination and maximize return on innovation. And Innomantra follows a signature threefold approach to innovation that looks at overall business strategy, people, and functional systems. Innomantra is headquartered in Bengaluru, India. Amplify. Amplify is a leading consulting and training company headquartered in Stockholm, Sweden. Amplify has pioneered the professionalization of innovation since year 2000 to become one of the world's leading innovation management consultancies. Amplify has developed and implemented unique innovation services that deliver immediate business impact and long-term sustainable innovation performance. Amplify has also trained hundreds of leaders through academics and together with international executive schools. Since 2019, Amplify services are harmonized with ISO 56000. Our first speaker and the chief guest, the esteemed Dr. Gopichand Katragadda. He will be the honored chief guest for this month's webinar and will be speaking on amplifying innovation, performance, or growth. And I'm delighted to present a brief introduction about Dr. Gopichand. Dr. Gopichand Katragadda is the founder and CEO of Myelin Foundry, an AI company with a vision to transform human experiences and outcomes in wellness and media and entertainment. He is an independent director of Bosch India Limited. He is also currently the president of the Institution of Engineering and Technology, IET, Board of Trustees in UK, which has more than 150,000 professional engineers and leaders. He is the first from India to hold this prestigious position. Till January 2019, Gopi was the Group Chief Technology Officer and Innovation Head of Tata Sons. At Tata Sons, he facilitated the development of pioneering products and services, strategic technology collaboration, and innovation across the $100 billion Tata Group. Previously, as the chairman and managing director of GE India Technology Center, he helped grow GE's largest R&D center, the John F. Welch Technology Center, to be amongst the world's leaders in intellectual property generation. Gopi is the immediate past chairman of the CII National Technology Committee and the CII Western Region Innovation Task Force. He is a GE certified Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Gopi has helped establish the Advanced Materials Center of Excellence at IIT Madras and the Advanced Manufacturing Center of Excellence at IIT Kharagpur. He has framed the CII Tata Communications Digital Transformation COE as well. Gopi also set up and managed the ongoing Tata research collaborations with Harvard and Yale. He is also an independent director at ICICI Securities. Gopi has authored a book on innovation titled Smash, currently in its second edition. He has over 30 journal publications, 5 patents, several invited presentations and citations of his research work. Gopi holds a B degree in electronics engineering from Bangalore University and MS and PhD degrees in electrical engineering from the Iowa State University. Ladies and gentlemen, here I present to you Dr. Gopichand Katragadda. Over to you, Dr. Gopi.
Thank you, Rakesh. We should send you over the short profile, but thank you for taking the time and going to the long profile. I think some elements of it are relevant to the conversation today, including the book on innovation, but I'm very happy to be talking about innovation in any case. It's an area of passion for me, and it's been my career right from the get-go. So again, thanks to Innomantra and Amplify for setting up this conversation around innovation. I think it's critical to continuously think about what are the trends from a standpoint of the consumer trends as well as geopolitical trends. How are they informing and shaping markets? And hence, what is the innovation required to create resilient futures? So I'll be talking about some elements of these in the given time. Rakesh, how much time do I have so that I'm crisp?
I'll ping you before well in time. Yeah, about 35 minutes.
Good job, man.
Okay.
Good job.
Yeah, maybe we can mute
everyone
other than me.
The host, please.
Slide number.
Hello.
5, 6.
Yeah, Jaykumar, can you host everybody?
Skill development. Impact in the growth in Indian economy.
1 second, I'll come back.
Yeah, I have muted. Sorry for that. I request all participants to mute themselves unless you have something particular. Please go ahead, Dr. Gopi. Sorry for the inconvenience.
No problem at all. So I think my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Very much.
So while I'll be talking about 1 second, I think I have the wrong presentation up here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm set. Yeah. Screen visible, Rakesh?
Yes, perfectly, sir.
All right. So I'll be talking about innovation and covering various aspects, which all of you probably have been discussing over the past several sessions. But I'll definitely share my perspectives from experience in the academic world, as well as in the first startup I was part of in the US, GE, Tata Group, and currently my startup. So, and also I'll be happy to take any questions. So if you can type them up in the chat window, it'll be great to have them as we go forward, as well as when I pause. So from an innovator standpoint, we continuously are reevaluating ourselves as to what will make us most successful. Today, as an innovator, we have to be a continuous learner. The expertise is required, but is not sufficient. The skill that we develop is that of learning, and we continuously learn. We also need to be a storyteller. We need to be an artist. We need to be creative. We need to be able to sell our ideas. We need to be able to create ideas. And we need to have deep relationships, of course, but also important are the leverageable weak ties. So the work that we get done is not all going to be get done because we know everybody that we need to know very well, but we might know people sufficiently enough. For example, Lokesh reaches out to me, and I'm happy to present because I've interacted with him and Rakesh and others in Innomantra, and I'm happy with their infectious energy and the purpose of the organization. Right, and when I reach out to them, they will extend the same audience to me. So the other aspect of innovation today, which is extremely critical, is being connected to the planet. So it's insufficient anymore to say human health and comfort, which has driven innovation all this while. We have to keep human health and comfort, but with the planet also in the forefront. We cannot have this generation benefit at the cost of the future generations, not only of humans, but with others with whom we share this planet. And as leaders, we need to further emphasize that we are custodians and we are not owners, neither in a company that we own, nor as a technologist or an engineer shaping the future. So these are the principles which drive innovators, and the new generation of technologists are by default coming in this form. So given that, what will leadership do? Leadership has to demonstrate without exception that they have a culture of service to planet and society. This is how we become talent magnets. We don't do this to attract talent, but this is how we become talent magnets, that we are responsible. Leaders have to be multidisciplinary technology champions. You might not be a technologist, but to innovate, technology will play a role. And especially in countries like India, I know there are participants from other countries as well. We need to make sure that we understand the role of technology and incorporate it into innovation as much as possible. So, of course, there are business model innovations, but we cannot take shelter behind business model innovations just because we do not understand technology. If after understanding technology, after putting it to use, after being the world's best in technology, then we say, okay, we will do business model innovation, then you're not taking refuge in business model innovation, you're actually leveraging that as an innovation tool. Otherwise, it's not an innovation tool, you're hiding behind it, right? So that's how I look at it. So that is being creative in all manner possible, and not being afraid of taking on the biggest challenges, and not being afraid of being at the forefront of technology. We have to, as leaders, increase intelligence in how and what we make. And to do that, we have to be hands-on. By hands-on, I don't necessarily mean that we have to go to the shop line and make the parts. We would have done it at some point. Hands-on could be being closer to the customer, being close enough to the data, generating the data, having a view on the data. So it depends on what we are doing, what hands-on means. Of course, we have to reimagine businesses in the analog digital world. We have to be a change agent, and we have to have an opinion. It is okay to say digital world, but really everybody is saying digital world. And being creative, being a leader means recognizing that the analog world is not going away. And maybe there is an opportunity to innovate, bringing back the analog in the digital world. So if you're listening to music, which is digital, it helps with the transmission of the data. It helps with the integrity of the data. But the live music performance in an analog world, it cannot replicate. Can we bring that back into your media rooms, into your living rooms? That would be so wonderful. That's what even Bose did when they used their waveguide principles for their speakers, and they're still going strong. But what else can we do in today's age where materials and biology has advanced so much and has given us so much information? We have to be globally pioneering. It's okay to start off being locally relevant, but we have to be globally pioneering. We have to be global first in products and services. So this is my view. There could be other views, but this covers it in a particular slice of how leadership can attract talent and deliver innovation. Now, I'll cover these areas. Lokesh has seen me talk about this in many forums, but really in summary, as innovators, as leaders, we need to ensure that as individuals, as well as organizations, we are creating, we are nurturing and changing. Those are the actions. And we do this by providing environments of freedom during the create aspect. Passion has to come during nurture, and detachment during change. And this is uniquely associated. So having a passion during create won't work because you are not allowing all ideas to express themselves. So you allow all ideas to express themselves in the create phase. But in the nurture phase, you pick an idea and go all wood behind the arrowhead. Else you're going to be always confused. And this is where we put most of our sweat. And we need to ensure that the teams are not confused, that creativity and freedom are the only aspects of innovation. Innovation is taking a new idea into market. Innovation is finding new ways of creating value. And that value could be in an academic setting either. Also, but for doing that, you need to nurture with passion. 90% plus of the time is spent on processes and data and statistics. And so we should ensure that teams understand this. It is not only about the idea. Idea is a good starting point and it is a necessary starting point. But what comes after that is where most organizations, most individuals fail. And another thing which is very difficult is when you're most successful, the ability to say that the time has come for something new, and maybe what I have invented is now obsolete. Right? To be able to take that call needs detachment, and the ability to do that is there with very few individuals and very few organizations. The larger the organization, very little of this capability of change with the detachment exists. So these are the things, and the bullets on the top are all connected to this. You see 1 through 6 are all creativity and freedom, and how do you get creativity going in organizations. And then 7 through 11 are how organizations nurture different organizations, and 12 and 13 are how organizations enable change. And I'll give a few examples. We will not have time to go through everything, but happy to answer it during the Q&A part as well. So here's an example of what I said. So the ability to create varies by organization. One of the sources of creativity is knowing your end customer. And knowing your end customer so well that you go live with them is what you learn from the FMCG kind of organization. What I'm showing you here are diapers. These are Chinese diapers. And that's the story which I'll just briefly go over. When Procter & Gamble wanted to introduce diapers in China, they knew that it would be successful because China had 1 billion plus people even then, which was 1990s. And of course, they had a lot of children also. So diapers are essential, and you sing the song of hygiene and the Western diapers, and you are successful. And they designed their diapers for the China market, sitting, of course, in the US. And they said that China market is cost sensitive, so we'll create diapers which are low cost. So they created the diapers with slightly lower end material, which made it a little bit plasticky, but it did the job of protecting the spill for 4 hours. And they thought that they had a winner, and they went into the market and they failed miserably. And one of the things which they normally do, they didn't do. That's the reason for this failure. But it's not a failure as long as you're willing to learn and grow, which is what they did. So they went then into the market, lived with the customer, and observed them closely enough to realize that these diapers with a hole in the middle were what the Chinese were using, and the babies would not wet the diapers during daytime because they squatted. During the daytime, it was more hygienic because how much ever you do, those of you who have babies know that the diaper rash is an usual problem parents don't get away from using Western diapers. Whereas this doesn't happen when you're not wetting your rear end, right? So because there is a hole provided for that purpose. Now, having understood this, they also understood that in the night time, the babies were not squatting while sleeping. The diaper got wet, babies woke up their parents, and many a marriage failed at this point of time of deciding who went and changed the diaper. So they thought through all the data they collected, and they came up with a nighttime diaper. And they actually made a nighttime diaper, which was more expensive than the diapers they previously had, because it had to last for 8 hours. And and they got 90% of the Shanghai babies wearing diapers within the first year of introduction. My internet is still okay, Rakesh?
Yeah,
You're able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Perfectly there.
Okay, great. But they didn't stop there, because innovation is not a one-time deal that you go in, be successful. Unfortunately, the case studies that you will read in Harvard Business Review, etc., do not have the luxury to keep track of their cases. Usually they stop where their story is told, but if you track that story further, that story and the end lesson which they give actually won't be valid. Right. So in that fairness of that principle, if you track this story further, they started failing later because other organizations also came up with similar kind of thoughts, and Japanese diapers entered the market, and so on and so forth. So the few years down the road, they went in and started talking about the fact that nighttime diapers not only allow your babies to for you to sleep better because your babies are not waking up, but your babies also sleep better, hence their cognitive abilities go up. They did this study academically with Chinese university, and they got another lease of life. Then came Japanese premier diapers with a golden belt, and so they had to again reinvent themselves. So the ability to be there with the customer, on the customer side, that is one source of creativity, right? So I'll skip through several others, but each one has an equally interesting story. Intel, it's not only about understanding the customer, it is about shaping the market. That's why a chip maker could make computer makers design their computers around the chip. Normally, you should have been the computer makers should have been giving design considerations to the chip makers, but it didn't work like that, because you have people like Moore, who created the Moore's law, who understood and took the market in a particular direction. Connecting the dots, you learn from Steve Jobs. The iMac, Steve Jobs is no more, but he lives on in the iMac. It has things like GarageBand, it has things like iMovie. It democratized movie making, it democratized music making, because Steve Jobs wanted it to happen. Otherwise, we would be using it as a word processor even today. Microsoft, on the other hand, set aggressive goals: a computer on every desk in every home, or we will solve the top 20 diseases in our lifetime from the Microsoft Foundation. Right, developing a voice of the future. You can think about any of the current generation organizations like Uber, Airbnb, or even more recent organizations. They are looking at the future and changing social behavior. Otherwise, who would imagine that you would share a home or go and sleep in somebody else's bedroom in Airbnb, or share a taxi with a professor in Uber, and things of that kind. 3M did their innovation creative part through communication. They communicated everything, including failures, and hence a failed adhesive became a 3M note. The next aspect is the nurture and passion. You focus on the action in this phase. And you put your mind to it. You learn this best from GE, where Six Sigma was not invented, but Six Sigma is associated with. Work as a team, you learn from the Japanese Toyota production system, and that's what makes them successful. Think and deliver scale, think China, think Alibaba. The amount of the scale that they think about is just unimaginable. I visited China, I visited the startups. They don't think anything less than 250 million customers, right? So that's how they think about scale. I worked at the Tata Group, build and leverage trust. That's what helped them deliver, be it an automotive or be it IT company or be it biological innovation, because people believed that they were doing something for the good, something for the region. Celebrate small and big wins. If you have traveled Southwest Airlines, they're a celebratory organization. They're a low-cost organization, but low cost doesn't mean not having fun. And I'll tell you this for sure: any organization which is overly serious and morose will find it very difficult to innovate. You need a team which is passionate and celebratory to be able to deliver innovation, because there are going to be a lot of reasons to be sad. If you have a team also which is sad, that's the end of the story. So change with detachment, fail early and iterate towards success. Think pharma, think any Merck, any of these. 95% of their experiments are failure, but it's not about stopping failure. It is about failing early so that we can give a chance for the next idea. Disrupting yourself, think Netflix. They started the mail order CD movie kind of business at the same time, and bandwidth was not even close to being able to deliver any kind of image, leave alone movie. They were thinking about sending movies across networks, and that is disrupting yourselves. Few examples from what we are doing today. So today we have a lot going on in AI. And these are all examples which I'm going. By the way, all the companies which I talked about, I have visited or worked with, one of the two. So these are very personal and close, what I've observed. Same with the next few slides. I'm going to share some thoughts around what we are doing and what's happening in the industry. AI is now pretty much part of every organization's roadmap. My company also started off in 2019 that we will bring AI to many applications and will differentiate on the edge and also excel on the cloud. So very few companies can do what we do on the edge being on the shop floor, in the phone, or in the TV, or in the automotive, right? So this is what we do. Low compute, very ambitious AI. So here's an example where we detect different elements of the video, hands, the component, the template, and identify defects, and make sure that we use additional logic that defect is a defect only if it remains in multiple frames as it rotates. Otherwise, it is a reflection, and use the template for sizing and so on, right? So there is a camera and AI on an edge NVIDIA platform which replaces human eye and human intelligence to some extent. And knowing those boundaries are also important, but also keeping current with the latest. So today we have an ability to use transformer models, which are used in generative AI also, to use AI where you do not need to train on anomalies. Because if you train on anomalies, you will not have many. So an aircraft engine component is made perfect most of the time. And so using Six Sigma kind of techniques, you're not going to find many components with defects. So how do you train on defects? So if you can train on pristine parts and still detect anomalies, then it's a great thing. And that's what transformers do, as an example. So keeping technology focus is what the message is there. Here we are taking video and making it possible to stream SD and U in HD. So on the mobile phone, we'll upscale it to HD. So we reduce the carbon footprint of your streaming. We improve the perception of what is being viewed. So that's another example, but this time also keeping in mind the planet and the human experience. Here's an example of safety. In the nighttime, if there is a rear view camera and you're trying to park, an optical camera will produce an image which looks like what is on the left. And even if you use thermal cameras, it will provide images which are not intelligible. So if I can take an optical camera, make nighttime and make it look like daytime, and scale it in a manner that is smart. So if there is light and you scale it with filters, everything gets scaled and it is equally bad if you use filters. Whereas if I use AI-based technique, which is pixel by pixel aware and intelligent, or you get what is on the right. All this is our work and on the edge. So you can see that I can enhance safety in this case. How about being able, this many people can do on the servers. We also offer this kind of capability on the edge, which means that these are Delhi streets. We ran standard codes, but the capability that we bring is also additional training for the India market. They were not able to see, the customer was not able to accurately classify women in saris or cows and horses, which they didn't see as much on Western roads. On our roads, we see everything, right? And the ability to look at something like that and say, what it is something that AI can do, we can do, other people also can do. But our innovation comes in taking it to where it matters. If you have to do this and it has to go to the cloud and come back on Delhi roads, you are highly unlikely to get the internet connectivity in many places, right? So hence we do it right there in the car, and that's the nature. See, if you see this horse has been detected as a horse, there will be frames where it will be detected as a cow as well. Like I said, there is sometimes the feeling that we have to invent a new rocket in order to be an innovator. It's not the case. Global first can also be that we have stood on other people's shoulder and found the right application in the right location. But here's something which is really innovative globally, and it's not incremental. It is out into the new area, which is, if you look at healthcare, you can do organ and tissue health and diagnosis, so predict and so that is diagnose and cure. So if you go to normally today's hospitals, whether you're doing X-ray, ultrasound, MR, CT, all of those are looking at organ and tissue health. That by that time disease has occurred. So if you want to go to predict and cure, the highest end will be going into the DNA kind of analysis, which will predict very long term. But what we are doing, and also because we are a startup and we can't get into too much of DNA analysis initially, is we are looking at cellular health. If your cells are healthy, each individual cell, then you are healthy long term. So if your cells are unhealthy, then you are going to be unhealthy, if not today, tomorrow. And that can be measured by simple things like how much water is in your cell versus how much water is outside the cell, intracellular water and extracellular water. That ratio to get, there are proxies which can be obtained from the blood tests like C-reactive protein, serum protein, but we can't do that on a regular basis. And this gives us what is known as inflammation, cellular inflammation, chronic inflammation. So chronic inflammation, if you want to do today, it is a proxy method based on blood tests. But it is got a circadian rhythm, it's got a monthly rhythm for women, it's got all kinds of variations by population. So if you take a point measurement, it's hardly useful. So if you can do it continuously, it's great use, but I can't take blood tests every time. So that's where we came up with the ability to train a neural network with blood tests as the output, but as the input, non-invasive. We do not want to give blood tests as an output eventually. So when we remove the blood tests and we want to predict wellness metrics, we do not predict the blood test, but we use what is predicted to give an indicative view on chronic inflammation. And even that, we will not give a number on chronic inflammation. We will give an inflammatory state, good, bad, and ugly. And that is, great progression from where we are of just measuring, let's say, how much you have run today, to saying that, today your inflammation seems high, and maybe you consumed 4 glasses of whiskey, which Lokesh normally does, and Rakesh asked him to avoid. So now this tool on your own hand can do the same. Yeah, so this would be my last chart in the interest of time. So delivering a resilient future would mean understanding the socio-political trends, So today, if there is a war in Israel, and if there has been multiple rockets used to breach the Iron Dome, that will inform future research in that area. Also consumer trends. So the COVID completely changed how we do business. I think Lokesh would have been very happy for me to come somewhere and have this discussion, but it is equally good because we meet once in a while and it feels as personal because of that. So you can do a good mix of physical meeting and virtual meeting and still maintain those links. But then those trends will inform various market needs. Energy, for example, going from being able to do renewable energy to near zero carbon. Agriculture going from agricultural productivity to being able to support 10 billion people. Transport going from what we are doing today to improve individual transport to making sure that public transport is equally accessible. The trends could be various things informed by the socio-political and consumer trends. Then we bring in the technology to solve these problems. Sometimes there will be an inventor, there will be a company which will push right to left, which is there will be a great invention which will completely change how we look at things without being informed by the macro trends or market needs. I'll stop there so that I keep a sense of time, and happy to later during questions add anything else that is required.
Thank you, Dr. Gopi, and you're exactly on time that we had. So thank you for that. A quick synopsis of the kind of knowledge that you shared with us. You started off with the context, setting the context for your talk, and you mentioned about leadership in context. You spoke about responsible, creative, hands-on, change agent, and impactful, and that slide gave the synopsis of the entire dimension that you wanted to tell us. And you also spoke about the innovation practices and the three-phase create, nurture, change. And that was very insightful. I'm sure that all of us were aware, but you put it in perspective, and that was very good. And knowing your end customer, probably one of the most crucial and most difficult. And that is the golden key for all innovations, knowing your end customer and their pain points and their needs. And that was insightful. And the AI and Myelin's innovations. I'm sure your Myelin innovations require one full session to understand better. You just gave us a small glimpse, and we are happy for that, and thank you for that. And of course, the very important topic is delivering a resilient future. The need of the hour is that sustainability and a resilient future. These were very insightful, and I'm sure the audience joined me in getting, thanking you for such an insightful presentation. Moving on, one information is that as it happens, 3 days from now, that is the 14th of October, marks World Standards Day. And it's worth noting that the newly established ISO 56000 standards for innovation management systems will play a significant role in facilitating overall growth and ensuring continued relevance in a swiftly evolving world. And who better to listen to about ISO 56000? Our next speaker of the day, Gunnar Storfeldt. Mr. Gunnar will be presenting on assessing innovation capabilities and performance. But before that, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Gunnar. Gunnar Storfeldt is the CEO and co-founder of Amplify AB since 2004. He has worked to stimulate innovation within leading companies and organizations through providing support in creating immediate impact, visionary strategies, and sustainable capabilities for innovation. He is also a lecturer at executive schools where he speaks about how leaders achieve ambitious business goals through proactive and systematic innovation, a necessity for success in today's markets. He believes everyone has the ability and desire to unleash their innovative brilliance to renew themselves, their organizations, and their societies. He has vast experience of more than 3 decades and has done several leadership roles. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Gunnar Storfeldt. Over to you, Mr. Gunnar.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Rakesh. My pleasure being here and also co-hosting this session. And thanks, Gopi, for actually laying the foundation for my talk. A lot of good stuff in there, and we'll build on that and put it into the context of the standards of for innovation management and how you can assess your capabilities to the benefit of your performance. So that's what we are going to talk about, and we'll open up for questions after my talk. Right. So assessing innovation capabilities and innovation performance to understand where you are and what you need to do to become even better. That is kind of the subject of today. But before we get into actually how can you assess innovation capabilities and performance, I believe it's in place to talk about some of the fundamental stuff and kind of setting the scene. We've talked about it previously in our CXO forum sessions, but just a quick kind of looking into what the international standards are telling us about what's happening and how we should see it and maybe benefit from it. Standardizing innovation management is kind of counterintuitive. Innovation and standardization doesn't sound good together. But we're not talking about standardizing exactly how you innovate. That needs to be adaptive, flexible, and unique to you, but provide you with kind of a common framework for what do you need to have in place to create the best possible conditions. And it is a global trend in management, and it's fueled by organizations and ecosystems and societies need to boost innovation performance. So it is a driving force. And let me just provide a few examples of that. In Japan, for example, prominent companies such as Olympus, Sony, Oki, TDK, and Hitachi are all running innovation initiatives and programs to implement the innovation management standards in the series ISO under the ISO 56000 series. And we are lucky enough to be small part in those initiatives. So we've seen firsthand what's happening, and it's really astonishing what they are trying to achieve and how serious they take it, which is really great news. In China, we are also now part of training hundreds of innovation management professionals on the new standards and a systems approach. It's a big country, and we're talking hundreds, maybe even thousands now in this year. India is even bigger, and there is a great potential for doing the same thing in India. And in my home country, if you want to provide innovation management services in the public sector, for example, healthcare, it's now a requirement to be harmonized with, or maybe even as an innovation management professional, being certified according to the standards. Not as an organization. We'll talk about that later because we're not able to certify an organization yet, but that is going to change as well. But as an individual, you can be certified. So it is happening. And I would say that looking back 20 years engaged in this management discipline, it is the biggest change for the better that we've seen. There has been too much talk about innovation, systemizing innovation efforts over the years, but now we're actually seeing some action. But I mean, what is it? What is it about these standards that makes them attractive, and why are people taking action on them? It is it is a framework for creating the best possible conditions for innovators and teams, and it doesn't prescribe exactly how to innovate, but it will give you a checklist for what you need to have in place to be able to create the best possible conditions, and you can use it flexibly. You don't have to use everything in it, but you have a compelling, a holistic view of what might be needed for you. And it is done, as Rakesh mentioned, it's done and developed in an open collaboration with innovation management experts in over 50 countries, codifying based on practice and research what you need to put in place. So it guarantees some validity and some credibility and legitimize this discipline. One of the first things we did when when developing this standard, and beginning 15 years ago, was to agree on a set of core innovation management principles. And from a long list of candidates, 8 innovation management principles emerged. And I'm happy to say that Gopi touched on almost all of them. So I'll just really quickly go through what we mean with each principle. We talked about them in previous sessions, but beginning with the most rudimentary but often forgotten thing, which is the main purpose, the sole purpose is to realize new and unique values, and to increase the likelihood of realizing new and unique values, and the most impactful innovations are based on deep insights. So both uncovering and exploiting deep insights. For example, insights about markets, users, and new behaviors, and emerging needs. I mean, spoken or unspoken needs. That's one type of insight you need to bring with it. That's the goal of your innovation efforts, to really uncover deep insights. Now, as soon as you have a new insight and learn something new, it will actually trigger more questions than give you answers, which means that we need to be good at reducing uncertainty, and experimenting and testing and validating our assumptions and hypotheses. So that's kind of a core capability that you need to build. And it's one of the core characteristics of future-focused leaders. Gopi had a long list of things that you need to be good at as a leader of innovation efforts. It's all packed in this principle. You, for example, need to be able to set an inspiring and informative vision and provide a strategic direction. So that's kind of, from a leadership perspective, one of the main responsibilities. And it will guide your team and inspire your team to kind of perform beyond what is usual in business as usual, and the more tactical and operational part of your business. So we want to have people who are then engaged and contributing, which means that we are dependent on a culture promoting innovation activities with the right attitudes and behaviors. Organizational culture is made up or defined by the dominating attitudes and behaviors in a group of people. So we need to make sure that we have the right set of attitudes and behaviors and values and beliefs in that culture. But all the things that we put in place, strategic thinking, cultures, structures, must be highly adaptable. It's an uncertain thing we're endeavoring into, which means that we need to be flexible and change. And that's one of the more important principles. For example, there are no one-size-fits-all innovation processes. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. And finally, then, it all comes together in an innovation management system to avoid fragmentation, sub-optimization, short-termism, key person dependency, or other impeding factors. So that's the 8 innovation management principles. And the systems approach, the final principle, is manifested through an innovation management system with its interconnected and interrelated components. And we don't have to go through all of them, but just to mention that the core of the system are the innovation management processes, and you want to move from an intention to do something new to value creation as effectively as possible, of course. And all the rest of the system is there to support those efforts. So that's the basis. That's the basis of an innovation management system. The principles for how to set up, design, implement, and run such a system. But of course, an important part of that is then assessing your system, its capabilities, and the performance that you can expect to achieve. And one example, when we engaged with Ericsson almost 2 decades ago now, one of the key questions came from a risk assessment done by the board of directors. And the result of that risk assessment was, if we lose our innovation capability, I mean, we are really at risk. That's the most urgent risk, or the most risky thing for us. And immediately when kind of prioritizing your risks in that way, you ask yourself, but how good are we, and what do we need to change to make sure that we can keep innovating and building on our innovation capabilities? So that was the trigger for an initiative where we have made an assessment throughout the whole company. Every unit was assessed based on what they are doing today and how they can improve. And to do such a assessment in a big company like Ericsson, you have to have a systematic approach. You need a good framework. And it was all then also connected to the innovation strategy of the company, making sure that when we have this assessment in place, we know that we have the capabilities, we can assess the capabilities, and we can actually predict that innovation investments have a chance to pay off and be of importance for the future of the company. So it lays the foundation for monitoring where we are and progress, indicating if we are achieving our objectives and if we can expect a return on investment. Right. So how do you make such a performance assessment? Well, there are a few things you need to consider. You need to, first of all, make sure that you can measure on and assess on a system performance level, on a portfolio level with all your initiatives, and then in the innovation processes and initiatives in themselves. So just quickly go through what we need to do. First of all, on a systems level, we have to have a holistic view on the innovation management system, its strengths and weaknesses. And we need a good, strong framework for actually doing that assessment, which then will provide us with good input when it comes to understanding what to improve, input to changing maybe the innovation strategy. If we discover weaknesses or strengths, we need to consider when developing and reshaping our strategies, and also to be able to benchmark with ourselves over time, and or maybe even externally. So what do we have in place now, considering the standard? There are some good frameworks out there. There's always been a quite good market for innovation assessment frameworks, but now we have a common framework that is based on the standard, internationally agreed. And this version is published by the Swedish Institute of Standards. It's based on a maturity model, 24 different key elements, all related to the innovation management system according to the standard. We're not going through all of them now. You can actually access this framework yourself from ISO and from CIS. But every aspect, every perspective of the 24 are then assessed based on a maturity model, which means that it's not subjective. It's not, well, how good are you on a scale from 1 to 10, which is subjective. It is a maturity model which then indicates, do you have these things in place or not? And the answer is for each level, yes or no. So you can quite easily then determine your maturity in all the 24 perspectives. And it can end up resulting in such an analysis. The red curve in the center of the diagram is where you are. The green one is then where you would like to be. So you can analyze the gaps and make improvements based on that. An assessment it often ends in recommendations and a plan for how to improve. Sorry for that. How are we doing on time, by the way?
Yeah, we still have about 10 minutes.
All right, so I'm almost finished. So, right. So now I mentioned Ericsson, kind of corporate assessment. You don't have to do it on a corporate level. It's complex. It takes time. Quite ambitious. It could be a single unit. It could be a whole organization. Sometimes it's even, collaborating innovations. Just for an innovation collaboration, you can do the assessment to see that you are aligned, create a common framework, make improvements together. The assessment could include all 24 elements or just a few selected elements. So that's what we are looking at on a system level. Now, just quickly on a portfolio and process level, I would say that there are many KPIs that you can use on a portfolio level, looking at the potential value of what you have in your portfolio has proven to be the most critical one. If you want resilience in your innovation endeavors, you have to prove that there's constantly a great value in your portfolio, and management can take the decision whether to risk losing what you're investing or risk losing that opportunity. So you have an upside and a downside, and it makes it a bit more easy for them to say, well, we're not walking away from that initiative or that potential, but it can build some resilience. But you have to find your own kind of set of KPIs depending on where you focus your efforts, how radical you need to be to achieve your goals, and so forth. On a process level, we're getting into the input, the resources, the competencies, the engagement we're putting into an initiative, the throughput, how many deep insights do we have to act on, relevant ideas in the pipeline, concepts that has been proven, the relevant solutions under development, and so forth. And of course, output, new things on the market, new unique offerings, and the impact those offerings have on your market. Basically 4 measuring points, finding the right set of KPIs, and then building a scorecard that fits your organization. But it can all be based on what we have in the international standards. So concluding, system performance assessment, portfolio assessment, and process assessment are all needed to give a full picture of your innovation capabilities, where to improve, and what you can expect in terms of innovation performance. So thank you. That's what I have today. Over to you, Rakesh.
Thank you, Gunnar. We have saved 5 minutes. We are ahead of schedule, rather. Okay, so that gives a lot of time to ask questions and interact with the eminent faculty that we have here who are going to throw more light based on our questions. So thank you, Gunnar. That was very elaborate, and I'm sure each of the slides that you showed have much more depth in that, and each of the framework that you showed in itself is a worth for a session in future sometime later. So quick to summarize before we get into the Q&A. You started off speaking about the standardization of innovation management and how the public sector, how it is evolving and how things could change with the new innovation management standards, which is going to be a game changer in the entire ecosystem. And you also spoke about compelling framework, open innovation collaborations, and the 8 innovation management principles, which are the driving force and the bedrock of the ISO 56000 series. And you also showed us, gave us glimpses of the risk assessment, innovation strategy, and assessing innovation and the methods to do that. And you also shed some light on the potential and actual value of platforms, portfolios, and that was very insightful. Do we have any questions? And I have a couple of questions, but I would definitely love to take questions from the audience. There is one question here, which I'm going to read it out. It's from Mr. Pradeep Subramaniam. Is any prominent organization already confirmed to ISO 56000 in full? And that's in capital letters. And any good example in India as well as global examples will do. Over to you, Gunnar.
Yes, and I skipped a few slides for the purpose of time, but I can show my screen again to answer your question.
Please.
And of course, we're in the beginning of professionalizing this discipline. So there are good examples, but the maturity in general in all sectors is very, very low. So. But to give you some good practices, documented good practices, and organizations who committed to actually implement innovation management systems and come a long way. This is a book that we've published quite recently. As you can see, a number of case studies, different types of organizations, both private and public, large and small. Different industries. So I encourage you to take a look at that, and you can learn a lot from what those organizations have done, and what they've done right, and some failures as well. So that's a good source. And while I have your attention and my kind of slides up on the screen, I just want to say that I mentioned that things are changing in the world of certification and ISO, because we're now developing the ISO 56001 series of standards, which means that we're moving from a recommendation to a requirement in the standard. So now you can be, as an organization, certified in all aspects of the innovation management system, as you can be certified in ISO 9001 and ISO 14000 and so forth. So we're expecting it to pick up and being taken more seriously, and we will see more examples over time, definitely. But we are pioneers. All of us who are engaged in this, we are part of shaping this discipline. So we have to create our own examples as well.
Thank you,
Gunnar.
Thank you, Gunnar. In other words, we are the Neil Armstrongs, the first people to step there. So we decide the route and the way to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Gopi, Dr. Gopi, this is a question to you. Moving on from the customer-centric innovation. So that was one topic that I thought that you can delve a little more and tell us, with the tech enhancement. Okay, it allows you so much leverage to understand your customer in different ways. But at the same time, you are flooded with so much of data and so much of things about that there is a chance that it could go a little way away from the customer needs in particular. So, any thoughts on that? I wanted to hear from you.
No, good point, Rakesh. I think, see, first we need to understand that an individual in a company is not necessarily your customer, right? Because that individual might have certain views which are part of the tapestry, which will inform you about how the customer is thinking. Right. So sometimes we get confused that customer is always right means we always do what an individual is asking from the customer organization. I think that's a mistake. I think we have to know the customer more than the customer knows himself or herself, live their lives, and hence be anticipating their needs. Right. So, so that's one aspect, which is to say that we need to take our leadership beyond our organization into the customer's organization. And when we say listen to the customer, we should listen for understanding, not take an individual's words. Listen means what the customer individual is saying, what the other individuals in the customer organization is saying, what the market is saying about that customer, what the IP is saying about the customer's innovation capabilities and trends, what the history of the company has been. There is so much to think about from a customer standpoint. But having digested all that, you will have a view, and not that it becomes more important than the individual's view within the customer organization, but it is okay to have a dialogue and arrive at a consensus. But you are fairly accurate in stating that there will be too much information out there, and we need to condense it to what is important. And the way I think we should look at it is the same way we look at our organizations, to say that how do we make ourselves more successful in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, and now, right? So similarly, given that all the information I have about the customer, including that individual who is my customer representative, how do I make the customer the most successful in these time frames? And as an innovator, while 1 year is important, 3 year and 5 year is even more important.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you about that. I don't see many questions, so that I'll have the privilege of posting more questions here. If anyone has any questions, please, you can post them here in the chat box, or you can ask directly. Meanwhile, my question to both Gunnar and Gopi, in the entire landscape of what's happening in the innovation domain, AI is something which is again going to disrupt in many, many ways. So do you think it's too early for us to kind of, is AI being overused in the entire ecosystem? Or what is it that you think as the potential of AI in the entire strategy of an innovation ecosystem? So first, I would like to hear from Gopi, and then the same question to Gunnar, because the standards are also evolving around the tech and the AI. Over to you, Gunnar.
Do you want me to speak, Rakesh?
Yes. First, this is a question to you, and the same question to Gunnar.
Okay, thanks, Rakesh. I think it's important. So it's similar to asking how important is cloud, or how important is a computer to a business, because we are at the same place right now that we were in 1990 with the internet, and the ability to connect across multiple domains, computers, people, servers, and the productivity which it gave is going to be a fraction of the productivity which AI is going to give. Because now we are transcending business into even creative space, which is non-business. So, for example, I have used generative AI to write proposals, which means that I have given it the input saying that I want the proposals to state this in bullet points, and I want it to have these sections. I want you to suggest for me what it might cost, or what are the elements of costing, and I will modify. And it gives a beautiful document with nicely written words. Just imagine, I have been used to writing proposals from, beginning of my career. But if I'm a new person and if I'm from a rural setting in India, I can write the same kind of proposals with the right knowledge, technical knowledge, with the right knowledge, customer knowledge. I as in Gopi Katragadda can write after 30 years of writing proposals. Right. So similarly, I've used generative AI to draw pictures, translate poetry, and create a book. The speed and the inputs are yours. The prompt engineering is yours. The original Hindi poetry is yours. But why should I waste my time on a translation? Right, I don't get any credit for translation. So I give credit to ChatGPT for translation, Midjourney for the pictures, and I have a great poetry book, which would have taken me 20 years otherwise to put together. And in factories, in phones, in automotives, there are all places we're bringing AI in. If I'm driving today alone, I can either call my wife and chat or a friend. But if I want to converse with the automotive and discuss politics or discuss art or discuss the locality I'm traveling to or traveling from, it is game, because I can use API, the ChatGPT API, and converse back and forth. Or if I want to create a presentation before I reach my destination, which I can modify upon reaching destination, I can do that. So everything that we know is going to change. And we were waiting for this moment since when I did my master's and PhD, I used AI, right? Electromagnetic sensors and AI, funded by NASA for master's, funded by Gas Research Institute for my PhD. And the reason it didn't take off until now is the compute power was not available to do it as extensively and as completely as we do it today. So how much ever people put it aside, it is going to be a disadvantage for them. Just jump into it and swim, because it's going to be water all around otherwise.
Thank you. Thanks, Gopi. Over to you, Gunnar. Your thoughts on that?
Yes. So I'll bring up two perspectives on AI and innovation management. The first one is the innovation processes themselves, and you guys at Innomantra has a lot of knowledge on this topic, and written some good stuff on it. So, but what we see the highest potential right now, and where we started to investigate, is the use of AI for data and information collection. And actually, going to your question previously, Rakesh, about the synthesis and ending up with the most relevant thing, how do you make it possible to investigate, explore a vast amount of data about users and their new behaviors, combine that with emerging technology and technology enablers, combining that with predictions about regulatory shifts, combining that with a fourth, a fifth perspective, and making a combined synthesis, almost impossible manually. But it can provide you with, and you have to figure out the impact of what is coming back for you and create the deep insights from it. But you have the synthesis, the essence presented to you in hopefully just a fragment of the time that it would take and effort it would take to do it the traditional way. So that's one. It's just an example of use of AI in the innovation processes. Looking at the discipline in itself, and it's rapidly developing. We have one of the biggest concern we have in spreading the discipline is the lack of maturity and knowledge about the discipline, specifically at top management, who are not hired to be driving innovation efforts, but to drive or lead companies efficiently, effectively, cost effectively, and so forth. So how do we build that? Well, and in a rapidly developing discipline, well, we can't have them read management books who are do all anyway, because we've moved forward. We were moving forward too quickly. So having AI as a tool for educating people, bringing up the relevant knowledge they need to have just in time for a certain purpose, and bringing all the knowledge together in a short format. This is what Gopi talked about, the power of using AI for, in the instance, getting the latest and greatest, in this case, about our discipline. Yeah,
Thanks,
so
Gunnar. Thanks for your thoughts. There's one more question in the chat box.
Can I add to what Gunnar said?
Yes, please. Of course, Dr. Gopi.
Yeah, so there is obviously a need to discuss ethical AI, which has two aspects, which Gunnar did touch upon. One is data, and one is the end use. And as engineers, we need to ensure that we are taking a lead, because we understand both data and the algorithms and the end use much better than anybody else can even come close to, as innovators.
Perfect. That makes more sense, right? There's one question from Lokesh. Lokesh, he's posing this question to both Dr. Gopi and Gunnar. What is your thoughts on inclination of innovation in founder-led companies as it delivers innovation compared to professional CEOs, which is complex and consequential? So we've seen that the approach towards innovation is quite different, though. So what is your thoughts, is his question.
Could you just repeat the question? In what type of companies?
So what's your thoughts on inclination of innovation in founder-led companies as it delivers innovation compared to professional CEOs, which is complex and consequential?
Right.
Yeah, I can go first.
Please, Dr.
Yeah, I think whether you're an entrepreneur, leader within a large organization, or a leader in a small organization, founder, or otherwise, what an innovator is a person with whom the buck stops. So from that standpoint, if you are innovative and if you have that spirit, then it doesn't matter whether you're a founder or you're a professional CEO. You will remove obstacles, you will find the energy, you will handle big and small things, you will listen, you will speak less and do more. These are all things that whichever be the role that you're playing in, you'll do. Now, the other aspect of it is startups are more innovative or large companies are less innovative. I think the large companies, their ability to fund and their ability to innovate on things like aircraft engines, new materials, no startup can do. So let us not forget that we are dependent on those innovations to move from a particular type of aircraft to a Dreamliner or whatever, the engines which carry it or the bodies which build it. These are all not coming, none of those are coming from small companies. However, the startup companies can change the way we think about the world. Like I spoke about Uber, you all will recognize in various AI organizations, the capital required is much lower. So I think all flavors are required, and innovation can come from any place.
Yeah, so and I agree. It's very much up to the leaders and the character and what knowledge they have of driving innovation efforts, and their own being both knowledgeable and comfortable with driving innovation efforts. Now, what we've seen, we're working mostly with mature, established companies. Some of them are very, very large and multinational, and we've seen a quite substantial difference between privately owned, like, for example, to take Nordic examples, H&M, the fashion retail brand, and one of the world's biggest shipping companies, Wilhelmsen, also privately owned, and their long-term commitment to innovation efforts, their resilience, their willingness to bet their own money on actually making a great change. Now, being part of a company and leading a company traded on a stock market, it's a delicate balance, because you will be punished if you take too much risk, and you will be punished if you don't take risk.
Don't take risk.
Which is a dilemma. And it's not an easy balance. I would say it's a much tougher job to be a CEO in such a company. And there is a ceiling. There is actually unfortunately, stock markets can provide capital, but they are putting a cap on what you can do when it comes to putting things at risk in the company.
Perfect. Perfect. We have time for one more question. If anybody has any question, please post. Otherwise, I'll ask the one final question and close for the day. We have just about time for one quick question. Okay.
Can I make a request, Rakesh, while I have the audience? So I'll just share my screen if if you can give me a second. Yeah, it's there. So I'll share my screen. So I just wanted feedback from the team. If you can go to LinkedIn, I've posted on ethical data and AI, and would love your input on, as innovators, how should we think about both data and AI in an ethical manner? Since Gunnar mentioned some aspects of it, I just posted it. So please give your inputs and help me shape this area along with all of you. And we have a global platform to deliver this thought process, which is IET, which Lokesh is also involved with. So look forward to your inputs.
Thank you, Dr. Gopi. I'm sure all of us will try to give our inputs for the data collection, and I'm sure that that will be a meaningful activity where we end up with some core statistics and data of how to use AI for ethical usage. Yeah. Thank you for that. Any other questions or observations? Gunnar, would you want to say something as a closing note? And I'll go for the formal word of thanks.
So I'm just happy that we have such a great audience. Many are signing up, logging on, listening in, and asking questions. And I have many strong positions throughout my career, leader positions. I started out as a product development engineer, been through a lot of different renewal efforts over the years, but the past 20 years as an innovation management professional, as an kind of outside expert, innovation management professional for hire, and getting into so many different organizations, understanding where their futures are and discussing that and shaping processes for discovering that future and realizing that future. I've never learned as much, never, ever in any, leader position I've had. So I can really encourage people who want to pursue a career as innovation management professional. It is a bit risky because it's an evolving discipline and profession, but it's so satisfying.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we are right on time, and it has been a very insightful and a meaningful 1.5 hours that we have had so far. We spoke about so many different dimensions of innovation, standardization of innovation, management of innovation, and more importantly, the ISO 56000 series, which is going to change the way innovation happens across the world. I'm very happy that Dr. Gopi was the chief guest, has shared some brilliant insights with all of us. Thank you, Dr. Gopi, our heartfelt thanks. And you have always been, at our request, you have always been helpful in sharing your thoughts, and we appreciate deeply for your time and your sharing of knowledge. Mr. Gunnar, thank you for joining all the way from Sweden. This CXO forum is unique for the fact that we are having people from across the world, globally, from various countries. People are participating, and the ecosystem is growing here. And that's the good part, where we are sharing the best practices from the world of innovation. We will be having the next episode, the next in the series, the 6th of the webinars. The CXO series will be next month in November. Stay tuned and watch out for the information when it comes up. Do join us during next time also, and we will be happy to hear from you. If you have anything to share with us, do feel free to write to us your feedback, your suggestions, any ideas. If you want to suggest to us of how to make this community far better, far more effective, and let's try to make this world a better one. With that note, thank you all and have a great time. And thank you. Bye.
Thank you.